Discernment, the voice within. Now we're going to talk about this total eclipse of the heart that many are having with this idea that we're all supposed to be joining together, holding hands, singing kumbaya, and not placing values upon each other's hearts. This is what many of us are doing, allowing for ourselves to discern in each and every moment who is of the truth and who is lying. That's one force to be reckoned with. This is where Brenda is always like, if you're not able to handle the truth, you're not going to want to listen to this one. Okay? Discernment is not about judgment, but in essence, it is an inner value system most often that we utilize, whether or not we realize it, that doesn't place others in a position of being bad for who they are, but perhaps bad for us. And when we say that, people are going to start to clap because this is the nature of the empath's moment, right? What happens is that many of us are open to the love for so many that sometimes we overlook the values of those souls who are saying, I'm here to cause havoc for you and your family, or for you and your loved ones, whoever they are. Brenda has some of those souls with her, to be honest. And what that means is she is in alignment with the highest vision of who they are in their hearts most often, not in the minds as they are here. There's a big difference. Now, when people realize that, that's the nature of then, I'm going to treat you with respect unless it's time for me to head another direction. If you're calling out words of comfort for those of us who've been betrayed by our own love for either the family or the friends, Brenda's had that happen, where she said, I understand people have their own ideas about what is loving to others or to them, because this is the nature of the empath moment, saying, I know this is going to hurt some people's feelings. Okay? Some people are not aware of how much discernment she has to utilize in aligning with those higher level of loves that bypass the family tree's moments. Because a family tree is just one of many levels of love for who we are here. It is not the collective moment. And this is why people start to clap. My family tree doesn't have it all figured out for every family. Okay? This is why people need to get off the idea that the family tree has it all figured out and that everyone else's family tree doesn't. We're all here uniting as one, whether we like that idea or not. Okay? So if you're trying to do a disservice to someone else's family, perhaps you might want to think again. Now, Brenda has her heart handed to her sometimes because in essence, she has been saying to herself all along, I know I love them, I have to set them free. This is the best thing for most when you realize that her own soul is not of just the family, but her friends, her loved ones, and the people around us who create with us every day. And then there is our own soul. Our own soul's awakening is in progress for many. And that means we carry with us a wisdom from within that is beyond the understanding of any soul's vision of what it is like to embody more of who you are from other realms, dimensions, and planes of awareness and love and development always. That means that the wisdom that we provide to all of us is often from the place of, I understand you yourself are not there yet in your mind, but you are there in your soul. Your soul has aspects of you that's united with certain family members more than others. So there is a natural preference for certain family members or friends or loved ones or even types of people that arrive on this plane. Brenda is a great example of how to look at the world in a way in which she honors herself, dishonors certain souls in her mind, but knows it's not about them, but her own path forward has to bypass their nature, because in essence, they're out for blood, for instance. They're out for blood. They want to kill people, or they want to hurt people based on the color of their skin or the character traits that they have, or whatever reason. There are people who are not mentally capable of handling their emotions. There are people who are not aware of how difficult it can be to tell people, I love you, but I'm setting you free from me because I'm not the best for you. If you feel like the only thing you want in your life is constant encouragement and re-encouraging and re-encouraging, and you're never going to do the vision of love that is needed for ourselves, which means sometimes we have those lessons in our hearts that need to be learned, and our hearts get massaged as well. Brenda is of energy embodiment as well. She knows how to do the vision of my soul sets me free from the character traits of who I am on this plane as well. I can vibrate in a higher vibration of love for each and every one of us. I may not portray myself as that kind and loving person on the internet always. Or it could be that the path of discernment that I have seen for myself is often the one that I can say, that path is not for me. Now, everyone else will have their own paths, but if you're complaining about your path, you might want to find someone who can give you the real deal about what you're creating, versus I'm just going to tell you that it's all beautiful all the time, whether or not you're in pain and misery, or whether or not there's a roadblock up ahead that you aren't even seeing for yourself. That's the nature of her guide. I know how to tell you where you are, where you're headed, and what other possibilities you could have come to you. These are the probabilities, are the future. That's more like the predictive quality, right? Probabilities are about that. There are things that are set in stone for certain souls because they've come here to do a certain job and they know it. That's why those souls who identify as INFJ preference are the ones that are often leading the pack when it comes to the predictive value of success for others. We place our hearts in the minds of others always, working out the various possibilities, the various connection points that we have, those that we want to honor and those that we want to discard. Because it could be that there's a painful moment or two that many people are utilizing to justify their hatred for every soul on this plane who embodies a certain trait, a certain wisdom, or a certain color of skin, that kind of vision. Many are utilizing their experiences to justify their hatred for people rather than to unite in the idea of, I love who I am enough to set myself free from those people who are hating people of certain, quote, presentations in the color of who they are. I understand it. I have family members who participated in it. I had my own influence based on that idea, not because I felt it in my heart or even in my mind, but because it was there. It was there in certain ideas about what locales people came from. And we see this often in the idea of what this country has done to us. Now we seek revenge, that kind of vision on a country basis as well, not realizing that the majority of the people on this plane don't have any say in what their leadership is doing or not doing to prevent world catastrophes of war within. This is where it starts, and this is why the empath moment is responsible for the nature of allowing people to see their own inner, quote, demons, right? No, we're calling it the issues of love for ourselves. When we hear negativity as an empath, it means that it's often something coming back to us from somewhere else in the vision of our life, and we have to deal with it. Until you go to the vision of, I'm now guiding others and I'm able to bring through wisdom, that means that we often have to discern, who do we want to serve? And I can tell you right now, Brenda is very kind and generous to those of religious institutions because she has so much information that would invalidate their belief system only in the vision of it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Versus the religious inspiration that sets me free from the worry about certain things, or believes in me as a soul, or loves me for who I am always. It's always there to inspire me to be better. And yet, when those values come through in various ways, how many people are riding that ride? Brenda says you walk the walk when you go to soul as much as possible. Otherwise, it comes back and it's not necessarily a pleasant experience. This is why she's saying you want to clear out the energy of deceit, if at all possible. You just own your victimhood. You own your world. You own your choices. You own your hurts. You own your joys. You sit there and say, yes, I feel happy when certain people are taken down in their minds, right? That's what sometimes can happen. And Brenda's more, oh, wait, I'm coming up with logical arguments for those who are trying to demean others who believe, this is what was happening earlier, believe in the validity of vaccines for certain people. She blew their minds away on the soul level when she came up with what she did. When it comes to people who are coming up with these valid arguments for them without thinking about the consequences of their actions in the mind, because she asked the question that needs to be asked. One, it doesn't really matter, right? For her, it matters. So she was saying, if you're so against putting things in your body that are damaging to your health, potentially, why are you smoking, drinking? Why are you eating processed foods that contain all kinds of chemicals that have been proven in various studies not to be best for us? Do you see why people are hypocritical in their ideals? We all do this. That's why you can't win. You want to have the lifestyle of love. So Brenda lets go of a lot of those ideas because she eats processed food. She does try organic for the most part whenever she can. She's limited in funds to a certain extent, so she will sit there and say, okay, let me go ahead in this time of worth and I will save some money for the future and let others go through that process of judgment of anyone who doesn't have the clean eating aspect of love upon their heart always. Do you ever go out to eat? Then you know you're not participating in the organic vegan meal that everyone says you must be when you go to the soul level, right? We're eating other souls when we eat meat, okay, or dairy. We're participating in the process of the destruction of animals. Do you see how it unwinds so many people? Because she's not in that. She has her expressions of love. She knows we have souls who identify with her now, saying she goes to battle for people here who are being labeled less than based on where they are in their own hearts. But at some point, she herself has to lift herself up past the idea of, I'm not going to go to that nature of hatred of people's personality traits or people's identities other than the identities or what she's been unwinding in herself for so long that so many people are having a hard time understanding what that means. And it's because so many people have issues based on what they're labeling themselves as or what they have put on for the sake of others, right? I'm a child of God. That's one beautiful vision for a lot of people. Other people are like, I'm no child in my mind. I'm an eternal soul creating from this plane of love and the worship of who I am, so I can see the beauty in who you are as a soul as well. You may want to continue to be the child of God, but when you grow up and take accountability for your actions, you start to own that vision that I am innocent. You are innocent in the vision that you are not aware of what we are doing here. This is one of those grand awakening moments for a lot of people on this plane, because we see the nature of condemnation of those who are not in agreement with certain leaders or certain ideals. And that's the nature of then going, let me go in, as Brenda does, and says, what's going on in this ideal? What does this serve? Does this serve humanity? Think twice before you go against her world. Because she's there for you and with you, whether you want her there or not. She loves you, and she'll set you free from the pain of the conditioning of your past, if that is what is needed. Because that's where most people are getting their ideals from, is the past versus aiming forward and seeing what's coming to us. Okay? And this is the nature of the God vision, is which God? Everyone has different ideas about what that really means, and it has no vision of everyone saying, but my vision of God is the best. You would be surprised how many visions of God there are in various planes and dimensions once we cross over. Okay, so find the one that fits to you. If you want to be in a revengeful vision, then by all means, vibrate in that Old Testament, right? This is why so many went to the idea of Jesus as a savior, but that's not the reality of those teachings. Okay, we're here to embody the strength that we now are on this plane. Many are not able to. If we're in survival mode, we're not expected to do the work. Most are not expected to do the kind of work that I did. But we can help you to have a better future and not fear what you've already created for the afterlife. That's where a lot of people are. They fear the afterlife. Others are saying, I look forward to seeing my friends and family members again. Others are fearful that they have to create with them. Brenda's had to deal with people that she didn't necessarily want to. It was more like the timing was not ideal. Okay? And the experience itself wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the joyful, reunion that she was looking for, right? She didn't even expect it because it wasn't a family member, but someone she created with for a long time. Okay, these are those kinds of values that can come through. This is why people are, sending people to eternal pits of hell in their minds, because they can't handle the vision that what we all created here is part of our expression. We're responsible for it. Others say they're leaving it up to somebody else to create for them. Your soul's got your back, but you want to be an active participant as much as possible in your own destiny. And this is why people are saying the empath moment is one that goes in and says, I feel your pain, I feel your justice, I feel your heart, but I also understand that behind a lot of those thoughts that we have are conditionings that are not necessarily the way forward for many. And if you want to get onto that train of success, you're going to allow people to see the beauty of who they are, no matter where they are. That's the truth of their souls. Everyone is not meant to go forward at the same pace, the same time. The same wisdom is not granted to certain souls because they're still working on certain ideas. Brenda knows that there are souls who have been told, yes, they are able to bypass certain painful prophets' visions. That's the nature of bypassing. Brenda said, I don't believe in any of those books. I opened it up as a child and said, no way, no how. That's not the kind of soul I would want to be with. That's the nature of those souls who she created with, though. And she was already receiving her own soul's wisdom beyond most people's understanding. That's the intuitive understanding and the soul of I am guided by God, because she believes in the higher source of vision, but not in the same in which people wrote upon this plane. They wrote with their own visions. Many people are aware we're progressing humanity forward in timelines instead of looking back. And this is why we want people to feel the way forward, not the way back to some ideal that was never there. You cannot create an ideal from the past that does not exist. It didn't exist on this plane. So while it may be worked out in another plane, we can get the wisdom from that other plane and bring it back to help align us onto a path of truer love for who we are. The love of who we are means that we love who we are when we are in pain, because we're learning and experiencing a moment that is guiding us to a different path, or it is showing us something about who we are, or it is showing us about something that we didn't want to learn, but maybe it's going to be granting us the wisdom that we need coming forward. This is what we're experiencing on this plane right now. We are experiencing the dictator moments, right? It's not. It's the lack of understanding of true leadership. Not about a certain soul being evil. He is who he is. It could be anyone that people are disagreeing with on this plane. But we have to decide for ourselves what kind of country we want, what kind of leaders we want, and what do they show about me. My values and beliefs and identities are going to align me with those that I actually agree with. Otherwise, I would be discarding them, right? Not even close. You could say, I have compassion for the vision. I understand. We all grow. We all learn. Some people are given second chances. Some people are given 10. That's the difference. So when you go through the empath moment, you're not giving people so many chances that they keep hurting you. This is the nature of the abuse of many in the minds who are going through that idea of, my discernment tells me I've been through this before, and I know that this person has not yet realized the lessons that they are granting others by hurting others. Okay? That's a painful pill to swallow for a lot of people who've gone through that. This is why, from a soul level, we don't have to agree to disagree. If you're bullying people, if you are sitting there bulldozing over people's ideas, Brenda has her moments of it in certain circles. She will say, I know that vision, I know where it's based. The words that you use, the phrases that you use, the tone of voice you're coming through with, and the wisdom that you have based on the ideas of, my soul is beautiful for being of love of political ideology. That's where a lot of that's coming from. A lot of people are there. Their families and friends are beautiful for them if they agree, right? How many of us are able to get together with our families and friends whether or not they agree with us politically or not? Brenda's okay with it. But she does sit there and go, oh, that's going to be a painful lesson. That's going to be a painful lesson for those who are on the Trump team. It's beautiful and wise in certain circles because of the freedom to be that they are expressing. They want the freedoms granted to them just as much as we do. It's how we go about it and how people have decided that, are there certain leaders that are more trustworthy? It depends on what they're looking to them for. I trust that he's going to unwind the whole of society in his mind and say, I've got the solution for everyone. We throw everything away and start over, right? That's where Elon Musk comes from, okay? We toss everything out and we start again. Most people would not really want to do that vision with our government at this point in time, based on the ideas of the Constitution is not to be played with. It's gently is where most people say we would gently go to that idea that the Constitution needs to be adjusted. There is no doubt that there needs to be adjustments in this government and how we do things. But the idea is that when you just throw caution to the wind, as Brenda would say, people get hurt. If you are like that in your family, where you're like, I'm willing to throw everything away and start over, that could be something that makes sense to you, right? I'm willing to go through this process. I'm not aware of the effects on my family. How many people are not aware of the effects of what they do on their family? Okay, this is the ripple effect of what we're talking about. And this is why Brenda is saying, as empaths, we tend to go in and feel our way through the ego. Okay, we're feeling our way through the ego. We're feeling our way through the hearts and minds of many. And if we feel like there's something that's not quite copacetic, it could be because there's pain and hurt there, and that's why we give them a pass. We understand you've had issues. I've had issues. As her soul, she's had many issues that she's had to bypass, in essence. Because we don't keep going back to uncover all of the pain at one point. Okay? It's about growing as much as possible on this plane and letting go of the pain of others who keep saying, I need you to save me from me. That's where religion often comes in. She's more in the idea of we're here to grow, change, and learn lessons of love for ourselves and each other. That's the nature of her niche. If you can't handle the truth, don't even bother coming my way, because I'm not here just to massage your ego. Your soul gives you the beauty of who you are in a loving and respectful way. But it does not deny the anger that many have when they realize they've been outdone because they're not saying what needs to be said. I love my family and I have issues with who they are. That's beautiful. So stop condemning the family trees who are saying to them, you're not acting like you were when you were a child. This is where many are going through these radical changes when they go through this process. And we want you to understand why that might be. It's because you get it coming back to you in spades when you go out in the world and you serve others. So when you're with your own soul, it's not going to be nearly as traumatic as what some people would say. They've gone through some hard times. But others, like Brenda, have had guidance along the way. So she's also there to love and support those who may be having a harder time going through their process of retrieval of who they were and saying, yeah, I have to own that. It's a humbling process, my friends. It's humbling and it's okay. It's okay. We grow through the pain and your soul will give you the wisdom of what you learned in that process. How many can sit there and look back and said, yep, I learned a lot from that. I'm not going to go through that again. But realize that that doesn't mean that we assume that that situation is ever going to present itself again. We don't want to create that, or that that type of person is going to hurt us again. Many people are making broad generalizations about people. Brenda sticks up for people that she doesn't even agree with because she understands the nature of where they're coming from or what their soul is saying to them. Okay, their soul is giving them messages. Stick with Brenda, right? It could be that because it means that they want to know the truth so that they can move on and deal with whatever they need to deal with. But many people are not in that position to be able to do so at this moment. And that's where the compassion from our hearts to those. This is why Brenda will say, in honor, others will say it's condescension, but it's not. She will say, you are not ready for me yet. That's not her being condescending. She knows it. Because she doesn't want you to hurt as you would be hurt with her as a soul on this plane. She's not here to just massage the egos and tell you that you're beautiful only. Because it's not the reality of what happens when you cross over. You cannot bypass your soul. You get aspects of you that are beautiful, wise, and loving, and adoring, and joyful, and all sorts of millions of inputs are coming to you saying, I want that one. It's why we're able to do it here now, because many of us are not in the mindset of I'm of survival. I'm just surviving day to day. If you're having a rough time of it, your soul knows and won't grant you the pain and misery. If you're able to buckle up, buttercup, we're coming through, and I can take my medicine. Give it to me. That's where a lot of people are. It's like, oh yeah, I remember what I did. It's harder when you hear it from their hearts. Okay? That's why Brenda's saying you hear it from them when you go to this idea of I'm serving others with their wisdom and their guidance. It can be even more humbling because it's like you're doing it face to face. You're not just going into a box, a confessional box. You're not just saying a prayer. You're working with the actual souls that were hurt by you or hit by you or whatever vision. Okay, you want to Brenda has been very open in many ways about how her soul brought back the nature of a word that she used to call her brother when they were younger, when they were young, pre-teens, maybe teens. She doesn't know. Her soul could tell her when. And the word was scuzz bucket. She had completely forgot about the nature of calling people names in essence. And she has to deal with that vision and say, oh my gosh, I was mean too. I wasn't just the victim of my brother in certain ways. I also antagonized him and created harm in his mind. Okay? We all have our insecurities. We all have our hearts. We all have our souls. And this is the nature of the development of the empathic response. Because we're wrapping it around again. The empathic response is, I wasn't as empathic when I was younger as I think I was. Or I still had my moments of lack of empathy for certain people who were hurting me. And this is the idea of that wasn't a justifiable excuse to hurt somebody else. Just because someone hurt me in a certain way doesn't mean it's okay for me to do that to somebody else. Okay, so she's very, very aware of those words of hurt that people will start to take on as there's something about me you don't like. Others are more free and able to take off those antagonistic or harmful words, and others like us are so sensitive in our hearts that it really does hurt us to hear certain things. Brenda's been challenged by so many souls who've called her every name in the book so she could kind of toughen up a little bit. So when she goes out into the world in the public sphere and they come at her, as so many do online, in their ideas with other people, she is literally like the mother hen to everyone, going, I wouldn't want to be them. She treats everyone as children in her mind, not to demean them, but how would I want my own child to be treated? How would I want myself to be treated is one thing, but there are so many people who are, oh, I'm tough and up now, the way that I was brought. But we kind of know better in many ways. It depends. You know, we wouldn't want our children to be harmed. Brenda has a very good example of adults that are hurting each other physically often are not aware of what they're doing. Okay? And for her, she thinks that there is some aspect potentially about, well, wait a minute, what are we modeling towards our children? Is this what we do? When there's a problem with our children, do we hand them bats or guns and say, go to it? That's the obvious kind of expression versus those of us that are trying to create kinder, gentler ways of being in this world. This is the empathic moment. It can inflame itself and be harmful because you're enmeshed in the world of love. And then when you go out into the public sphere, people think you're always going to be kind to them in your mind. This is why Brenda says, I have to process through my emotions sometimes. And it is painful for me sometimes because I have those realizations. I'm not always cleared out enough with political ideology. And so sometimes I come across very belittling to certain souls. And she says, if you knew what I knew about what is coming and what is happening, you wouldn't want to align with so much hatred. Because I don't hate you, it's because I love you that I'm putting out the messages of strength. If I come out with messages of strength and awareness, there is a reason, and we're seeing it now, about what is happening and the extreme states of aggression that people are participating in versus people that just have a preference for a certain candidate or a certain ideology. There's a big difference. And so we're honoring that. And it can be harder when we see those ideas of, yes, I know that my family and friends are not of hatred for other people of skin colors or whatever, but we had it in our family. We had it in our family. And people start to understand why that can be very hard for other people. They say, well, how do you do that? It's the nature of their souls are not ready to hear the wisdom of who they really are. They're hurt, and they're blaming others for the conditions in which they themselves created in this life. They were not forced into any vision of being. It's the idea now of a person who was enslaved and the after effects of that kind of vision, or those who are wanting a better way of life, and those who are then blamed for other people's lack of understanding about the sociological visions that many are working with. And so we want everyone to see that the empathic notion is a state of being. When you open up your heart and you say, I can't align with people who hate, we're aligning with them on the soul level no matter what. It's how we deal with them. And this is why if you see Brenda take off in a direction, you might want to pay attention to why that direction was being looked at. She is there always going, I am on a path. Where is society headed? My soul lets me know certain aspects of what's coming and certain aspects of who I am, to know that if someone asks me a question and you hear an immediate no, that means I've processed that world enough to know that that's not the way for me. I would never tell anyone else, follow me, this is the path for you. But I would say you might want to think about who you're listening to on the screen when there are plenty of people who are belittling people from the soul level as well. Brenda will not tell you you're dark. She will not tell you you're toxic. She will not tell you that you're even in the light. That's a very, very dichotomic thought. There is an awakening. It's the lightness of being, but it's vibrations and frequency bands. And so everyone who claims that there's something beautiful, if you are in the light, you are going to be vibrant. Right? You're not going to be holding people under your thumb, telling them they're bad for who they are. Brenda is always like, we're talking about choices and behaviors, not who they are as souls. There's a big difference. Okay? This is where people are starting to get on track with the idea of the identities are the hardest to look at and the hardest to change. So you want to think very carefully if you're aligning with a system or an identity or a value that puts you as I am a blank or n blank, because those identities can come off very easily for certain souls, and for many, though, they're what they're unwinding from based on, many ideas of old. People are very, very happy to place an angel on as their identity, but if they do something bad and they're now labeled a demon, what does that say about your system? Okay, and Brenda's not saying that there's no angels or demons are what are created. They're usually shadow thoughts that have come through. The reality is that most people who vibrate on this vision are not aware of the nature of what she's worked with and how she deals with those kinds of visions. Most people are creating because they feel like it's the nature of the world. It's what we're dealing with are choices and love of everybody. We just don't realize it. People are having a hard time. People of old visions created a lot of masters who are saying, I experienced that, because that's what they created. So why would you follow people who are creating eternal realms of hell unless you yourself want to participate in that kind of vision? Do you want to be the one attracting the, quote, demons of the world? Who's labeling who what? It's usually just a vibration of being that others are not exactly, copacetic with or in line with. They have different ideals, different vibrations of what they want to do. Okay? And if someone is causing you harm, that means you make a wise choice and you say, I'm not going to align with that kind of vision. That's why Brenda just got rid of all of the religious text. She said, there's historical information there, but there's too much there that is just too easily unwound in my mind. And I can see the limitations in it. I can see the hurt and the pain that people were going through and why they needed it. But by golly, we need to aim high. If you go through a shadow work vision and you don't have something else to aim for that is there to lift you up, you want to make sure if you're doing shadow work that you have that ability to lift yourself up. Okay? And that could be a therapist or a guide of some sort. And you don't do it all the time. Brenda's gone through it. She knows how to do it wisely. She's like, ooh, I sit there, I go to any system. It better have beautiful, wise ways and is validating of my strengths and my beauty, in addition to allowing me to see some of the issues that I may be creating or working with as a soul. Okay? The shadow vision is loved, cherished, and adored because it's mostly what we are in our everyday wisdom. It has nothing to do with being bad. It is about, I want to aim for a higher vision of what judgment is, right? I'm in integrity, but it's not integrity in which we just are validating our own judgments. Judgments are what we do every day. Opinions are what we do every day. Okay, this is a system that she allowed herself to participate in. But she's participated in so many systems, and those that just gave her certain ideals and they also came in with negativity. It could be anything, okay? This is why a therapist isn't going to just say, you're this, and this, and they're not going to give you any help or guidance in a way to lift you up. Okay, so that's why Brenda is more of the therapeutic type of model, because it makes sense. We want you to understand it's the long-term permanent growth and understanding and love of who you are, no matter what. So you don't have to rely on somebody else to lift you up. You go in and you understand. This is the I love who I am. And that's when, after that vision, we have the I love who we are. And that's the nature that is hard for many to see in this world. Okay? But we do. It's the process of discovery of who we are as souls that most are working with her with. We love each other. We set ourselves free from certain souls because, as Brenda says, we're not creating well together. And I want you to have a better experience of your world as well as mine. That's what Brenda does sometimes. We're not creating well together. It doesn't mean that we could go in and try and work everything out. But sometimes those kinds of visions are just about we grew apart and we set each other free. I love that vision. It's a good way to do it. If there's a natural letting go versus I'm hating you because you believe a certain way. Brenda doesn't hate people who are of religion. She just doesn't want to be forced to be in it because she's experienced certain attributes of their, quote, love. And she's like, I don't want that kind of love. And people know what that means. Okay? That condemnation is not her cup of tea because she's like, I can unwind it for most of the people that are placing it upon other people's hearts. It's not a pleasant place to be when I do it because it means I unwind certain aspects of myself, but I'm willing to do it. I stand up for those that are actual victims, right? With understanding that people are placing those people in there because they were victims. There's a difference between victim and victimhood. And this is also an empathic moment for all of us to know, when am I a victim versus I'm victimizing myself by staying in relationships that don't serve me well on this plane. This is why people will ghost her. And she's like, I'm okay with that. To her, if people leave, it means that they themselves have a better understanding of who they are, where they are, and I don't begrudge them that moment. I'm not here to force people to be with me, friends with me, caretaking me, or whatnot. I want people to freely create with whoever they want to create with, whenever possible. It's when we're forced to create with people that it gets a little tricky. And that's why Brenda is very compassionate for those souls who say, yeah, I had to leave. Brenda's more in the artful moment of leaving people whenever she can, but it's not common. She doesn't do door slams for the most part. She doesn't buy into that. She's more of the, usually I can see the wisdom, and I grant myself that idea of slowly disengaging with people if I don't feel comfortable with who they are for me in my moment. Because I don't have it all figured out. My soul gives me a lot now, but I get to have my free will and choices to suffer sometimes as well. I still suffer about certain people in my life. And that's a painful moment for some people to understand. It's because I create it for myself. I keep going back and trying to replay something, thinking there's going to be more for me to learn, and there's not. So I just end up suffering. This is why we want to be in the present moment whenever we can. There is a reason to go back, but most often the present moment is your best friend. So with that, I want to say with all my heart that I love my friends and family no matter what I say or do. I've said that before. I've said a painful moment because in essence, the aches and pains of our minds are often what we're working with, but our souls are eternally grateful for the wisdom that everyone is offering us. That's the beauty of my soul. So I love you. Set yourself free from those who are treating you horribly if needed, and don't feel guilty for it. Okay, that's where a lot of the wisdom is. We don't need to be treated horribly anymore to be of honor either on the other side of the veil. People understand. Different people are aligning with the idea of they think the love of all means that you're forced into situations and you have to stay. That's not true. That's not true. Okay. It's more about, I can't be the only one working. If someone else is not willing to work with me, in essence, or they can't for some reason, then yeah, you might want to just gently leave that relationship. Okay? So thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.